Bendy blowers ahoy, it's time for Samsung to spaff out its latest flexible phones, including this here satisfyingly skinny Galaxy Z Fold 7. It features quite a few upgrades versus the old Z Fold 6. Now the pricing is pretty similar, at least here in Blighty. The Galaxy Z Fold 7 starts at a meaty £1,799 for the 256GB model, rising to £1,899 for the 512GB version, and then £2,149 if you want the full terabyte, which also raises up the RAM from 12 to 16 gigs. So if you fancy one and you're not absolutely minted, it's time to chloroform a few more street orphans and prep them for surgery. So is the Z Fold 7 a worthy upgrade versus the Z Fold 6? Well, let's check it out. For more on the latest and greatest tech, please do subscribe and ding that notifications bell. Cheers! Now the Z Fold 7 has certainly slimmed down quite a significant amount. It's now just 8.9mm when folded up and 4.2mm when unfolded. That's over 3mm thinner than the old Galaxy Z Fold 6, if not quite as ludicrously skinny as some recent Chinese rivals. And of course these measurements are all taken from the thinnest point naturally, so they don't include the pokey out camera lenses. But still, the Galaxy Z Fold 7 not only feels better when it's lodged in your pants, it also feels nice and comfy when you've got it in your grasp as well. It's no longer quite as brick-like as that Z Fold 6. And that weight has also dropped to just 215 grams, down from 240 grams. Again, that just adds to the comfort factor, the fact that there's a lot less heft. The arse end is once again Gorilla Glass Victus 2, but you now have Gorilla Glass Ceramic 2 up front, the same as the Galaxy S25 Edge. So that Z Fold 7's screen is more scratch resistant, although sadly no less reflective. I keep hoping for a bit of Gorilla Glass armor action, same as what Samsung slaps on its Galaxy S25 Ultra. Maybe they're saving that for the Fold 8. You've got an advanced armor aluminium frame on the Z Fold 7, including the upgraded Armor Flex hinge with its re-engineered multi-rail structure for improved stress protection. So if you're quite heavy-handed with your smartphones, that'll probably come as something of a relief. And you've got yet another frosted finish around back, which is pleasingly resistant to smudgy nastiness. This generation of Fold is offered in blue shadow, as well as jet black and silver shadow. And just like the Z Fold 6 before it, you've got full IP48 rating, so it's reasonably dust and grit resistant, as well as fully water resistant. So you can drop it in a sink in a bath, it can be fully submerged in water, no worries. As long as you don't just wander off and forget about it, of course. Now the Z Fold 6's cover screen was bizarrely narrow with its long and thin 22.1:9 aspect ratio, but thankfully this has been widened out a wee bit to 21:9 for the Galaxy Z Fold 7, which is a massive relief, because as good as that cover screen was for, just kicking back and watching some Netflix or whatever, it was pretty much a bugger to do anything else on, including typing out messages and stuff, because it was just too bloody thin. And thankfully that no longer seems to be the case here on the Galaxy Z Fold 7. And the cover screen has grown in size as well, up from 6.3 inches to 6.5 inches for this generation, but otherwise it's the usual dynamic AMOLED 2X shenanigans, still pleasingly bright and poppy, although yes, as highly reflective as ever. And the same goes for the internal display, which has grown from 7.6 inches on the Z Fold 6 to a whopping great 8-incher on the Z Fold 7. It's yet another dynamic AMOLED 2X screen with the usual reflective protector slapped on top. But the other specs are basically the same, from the HDR10 Plus streaming support to the LTPO tech, so that refresh rate ranges from 1Hz all the way up to 120Hz. The Z Fold 7's screen nice and bright again to help counter those reflections, and the crease may be slightly less noticeable than the previous gen, but there's not much in it. And apparently for the Z Fold 7, Samsung has also added a grade 4 titanium lattice to just underneath that internal display, just to improve the overall, I was going to say ruggedability, durability is definitely the word. And apparently they've also slightly thickened the glass itself. As for performance, well, the Galaxy Z Fold 7 runs off of the Snapdragon 8 Elite for Galaxy. Now this has the exact same structure as the S25 series chipset, same cores, same GPU, etc. So expect a significant boost to the overall performance versus the Z Fold 6, including those gaming chops. I had a quick bash on Genshin, which was a wee bit choppy, but that's almost certainly down to the early software stuffed on this thing. I would absolutely expect a flawless frame rate on the full retail model, especially if you spunk out whopping great wadges of cash on the 1TB model, which boosts up the RAM from 12 to 16 gigs. That said, Samsung could not tell me what the size of the vapor chamber was in the Galaxy Z Fold 7. This has probably been reduced in size versus the old Z Fold 6 because of course now the phone itself is considerably skinnier. Although Samsung has added a bit of thermal interface materials, or TIM for short, to help keep all that pesky heat moving along. Anyway, I'll be fully testing out the gaming performance for my Galaxy Z Fold 7 review, so definitely stay tuned for a bit more of that. But to be fair, the Galaxy Z Fold 6 still handles the likes of Genshin Impact and Wuthering Waves just fine. However, there was one key feature in the Galaxy Z Fold 6 that I had absolutely fingers crossed, toes crossed, everything crossed that Samsung would upgrade for the Galaxy Z Fold 7, and sadly it has not come to pass, and I am talking about the battery capacity. On the Galaxy Z Fold 6 this was a measly 4,400 mAh, which meant that by the end of basically every single day with that thing I was balls deep in power saver mode. And gotta say, it's looking like we'll have the same battery woes with the Galaxy Z Fold 7, which sticks with that exact same 4,400 mAh capacity. I mean, at least it's not been downgraded because that new skinnier design, I guess, is not quite as bad as the S25 Edge, but still, it's enough to drive a grown man to drink. So good thing then I just happened to have a bottle of whiskey clutched to my fist. And you've also got not particularly fast charging, 25 watts once again, and that just as tediously slow wireless charging. Much better news on the software front, however, because the Galaxy Z Fold 7 is actually launching with OneUI version 8 slapped on top of Android 16, one of the very first smartphones to come packing it out of the box. And as usual, Samsung's super generous with the upgrades scheme because you've got 7 full OS updates and 7 years of security patching, taking you into 2032, when I'll be bloody 50 years old. Hell. There's assuming the old whiskey doesn't get me first. And you've got plenty of AI shenanigans slapped on here as usual, of course, all the standard Google stuff, all the Samsung stuff you found on the original Galaxy Z Fold 6 is back in action. And then you've got some extra bonus bits including suggested erasers, which can automatically eliminate unappealing stuff from your pics, like coffee cups or children. And Samsung also reckons it's enhanced that audio eraser tool, which I was never really a fan of, so we'll see how that fares if it's actually usable now. And apparently you've now got in-game circle to search support, so say you come across some massive tough bugger in Genshin Impact or Wuthering Waves, just draw a wee ring around them, you'll find out exactly what it is and how to murder the living shit out of them. And a couple of big updates for the camera tech as well. Samsung has ripped out the Galaxy Z Fold 6's 50 meg sensor and replaced it with the exact same 200 meg sensor from the S25 Ultra. Quite the size jump, and certainly when you capture high-res photos you will notice a big difference in those detail levels. You got the same 10 meg telephoto shooter on both with 3x optical zoom. This can apparently do a good bit of macro photography on the Z Fold 7, and the same 12 meg ultra wide angle shooter. And the Z Fold 7 also introduces 10-bit HDR video support even when you're shooting at the 4K 60 frames per second level versus the old 8-bit HDR support on the Z Fold 6. The cover screen camera apparently uses a fresh sensor as well, but the big switch is for the under-display 4 megapixel camera on the Z Fold 6's insides, which has been replaced with a regular 10 meg camera, so you don't get a glorious full view finish anymore sadly, but that image quality is miles better, and you now have a wider 100-degree angle to work with versus 85 degrees on the Z Fold 6. So some pretty big significant upgrades for the Galaxy Z Fold 7 versus the old 6, including a wider cover screen that should hopefully prove better for a variety of functions, not just watching movies. An all-new skinnier design which is more comfortable to clutch and to shove into your pants, and also upgraded camera tech as well. Of course, we'll have to see if the Z Fold 7 can handle gaming without getting hot under the collar, but certainly the 8 Elite is a great start, should prove more than up to the task for Wuthering Waves, Genshin Impact, etc. I am just rather gutted about the fact that the battery capacity is still pretty piddly compared with, again, a lot of rivals from the likes of Oppo and OnePlus. Anyway, stay tuned for my in-depth Galaxy Z Fold 7 review for all you need to know. I'll be bringing that in about a week or two, and I've actually spent a good bit of time with this bendy blower. In the meantime, let us know what you reckon down in the comments below. Are you tempted by the Z Fold 7, especially if you've already got that Z Fold 6? Be great to hear your thoughts. Please do box subscribe, ding that notifications bell, all the usual YouTube bollocks, and have yourselves a ruddy, wonderful rest of the week. Cheers everyone, love you!